yes, this meeting is also being recorded. Not only is he a UCLA alum, but he also works at the Westcoast Sports Associates, and we'll get a little bit more into that. We're going to learn about kind of his journey, not only to UCLA, but after, how he got to where he is today at this nonprofit. And we'll have plenty of time also to ask any questions you guys may have. And you guys can feel free to throw those in the chat. We'll have time at the end as well. So please, we encourage you always to ask questions and really use this as a learning opportunity. So without further ado, I'm actually going to have Colin give a little bit more of an introduction, since he has a personal relationship. Colin worked at the Westcoast Sports Associates last summer as an intern. So we will have him start out and give a little introduction as well.
Thank you, Christina. Appreciate it. Hey guys, Colin Flintoft. Might remember me. I'm one of our vice presidents here, Bruins Sports Business Association. I just want to introduce Mike Gottlieb real quick. He was my former boss. He's a family friend. He's one of my dad's best friends. They both went to UCLA together, and it's a real pleasure to have him here and sharing his great work with us. So speaking about him a little bit, Mike is a UCLA alum. He's currently president and co-founder of the Westcoast Sports Associates, which is a nonprofit. All right. And he's also chairman of Citation Capital Partners, which is a commercial real estate investment banking firm located down in Orange County. So as you know, he's an alum. He got his BA in economics here and then went on to go get an MBA from Georgetown. When he chose Georgetown, he was actually looking at Columbia as well. I read this earlier when reading up on him, that he only went to Georgetown primarily because of Patrick Ewing, because it was either there or Columbia Business School. And Columbia was coming off of about 40 games in a row, losing in football. So Patrick Ewing had a big impact on him going to Georgetown, which is really cool. And then while at UCLA, he played rugby while it was a varsity sport. He also later co-founded the UCLA Real Estate Alumni Group, and he's still currently a board member for them. So Mike and his team at WSA, they're working to make youth sports possible for underprivileged children who would otherwise not have access to sport and the other opportunities that it presents. And I had the privilege of being able to be their strategic planning intern this past summer. So I know hands-on a little bit about what that looks like behind the scenes. And it takes a lot of work to do, but it's certainly worth it. And you can see that in some of their statistics. Like each year, they donate over $250,000 per year to directly benefit over 10,000 children across Southern California. And that's every single year. So it's a lot more than that if you were to total it all up. And they've been around for 25 plus years. They've been featured in the LA Times print edition. And some of their previous Roy Firestone Award winners that they have hosted include people like our dear Bruin alum, who we just refer to as Coach, or the Wizard of Westwood, John Wooden, all right? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Clayton Kershaw, Wayne Gretzky, Bob Costas, famous announcer, Hank Aaron, Arnold Palmer, Joe Montana, Steve Young, Bill Walton, Terry Bradshaw, Pete Carroll, Vince Scully, and just a couple weeks ago at their annual dinner gala event where they raised a lot of money, they had Charles Barkley. So these are people that Mike has all been able to interact with personally. And so overall, Mike does a lot of great work. I'm just grateful I get to know him, and we're really grateful to have him tonight. So without a further ado, Mike, here you go.
Thanks, Colin. And hey, thanks everybody for having me. It's exciting to be a part of anything Bruin. As you guys saw the list of honorees, and we're in our 25th year. There's only one year that I missed, and I won't say I consciously missed it, but something came up and I just couldn't go see Pete Carroll. So I was really bummed about that. The group, ironically, was founded by two other friends of mine that I went to UCLA with and one Trojan. So Alan Lynch and Mike Rosenberg, I met at UCLA, and Chip Eggers, who's the lone Trojan, I met after college in our professional career. And the four of us were looking to kind of combine our passion for sports with community service and just kind of networking. The idea, my thought was, let's do something where sports meets business and have it benefit kids in the LA area who just don't have the means to play youth sports. We all had such incredible experiences growing up playing sports, and we just thought, what about the kids who won't have that opportunity? And there's all sorts of statistics about, the kids who will have some kind of active program in their middle school years, um, to help keep them out of trouble and in school. And the kids have to maintain certain GPAs to kind of qualify for the scholarships that they get. Um, but there's some great statistics about, how if you can do that, if these kids can have the opportunity to play sports, they'll have a better chance to have a more successful life and stay out of trouble. And but just in general, I just can't think of what, and could any of you think of what life could be like if you weren't able to play sports as a kid? We're really not talking about the 4 and 5 star athlete. We're talking about just the average kids, whether they play in college or the pros or not, just to learn those life lessons. And so that was kind of our principle. The kind of where meets business came in because, um, I was in the commercial real estate business, and Chip was a wealth manager, and Alan Lynch was a real estate guy. Mike Rosenberg was an investment banker. His firm Barrington Associates, um, put together a couple transactions of major sports teams like the Los Angeles Kings 2, 3 iterations ago. He put the deal together when they sold a couple times. So Mike had some sports expertise, and we really had no idea where this was going. And so my point is, we didn't have this grand vision of where we are today. We just wanted to do something. And if you don't kind of take a leap of faith, you'll never know. So the four of us said, we don't know where this group's going, but we're going to adopt a park. And we were good friends with Steve Sobroff, who is today's, I believe he's a commissioner for the LA City Police Commission, but then he was the head of Parks and Recreation for LA. And we talked to Steve and said, boy, we want to pick an underserved area where these kids just don't have the means to play sports. And he said, I know just the place. It's Jim Gilliam Park in the jungle area of kind of South LA, um, over on not Rodeo but Rodeo, and so we committed. We said we're going to commit $10,000 to 4 programs, and if we can't raise the money, we'll just do it ourselves. And Mike said, we do an event where we invite a handful of guests and we have a fun speaker, and so we somehow got to Roy Firestone, and Roy just did an event for us. Roy he's an incredible sports interviewer, but he's also an entertainer, and he's funny, and he does a song and dance and impersonations. And so we lined up through one of our other members, the old Forum Club, and most of you people don't know what the Forum is, or know that it used to have the Lakers and the Kings and concerts, and it was the spot. And so we got to have an event there, and we shot free throws on the floor, and it was a great event. And that evolved to Roy Firestone really taking a liking for what we were doing, our mission. And we decided to put an annual event together every year where Roy would interview our honoree. And we grew from $10,000 in one park and 100 kids to 250,000 a year and 10,000 kids a year over 25 different programs. Half of them are probably cities or city of LA parks, in some of the tougher areas. And then the other half are nonprofits like USTA, their junior program. And we have sports like Harlem lacrosse, Beat the Streets wrestling. We have golf, aquatics, virtually every sport you can imagine. And it's roughly 50-50 girls and boys. And it's really been it's been enjoying just to kind of do the ride. 25 years later, look back. So I was one of the original founders, and we were mostly LA based. But in about 5 years in, I ran for Congress on the West Side, kind of where UCLA is. I always wanted to, try and just see, I like politics, and I thought, I don't want to be 60 years old and say I never tried. Um, now I'm 60 and I go, okay, I did try. And it was a really interesting experience. That's a whole nother story. But I just wanted to give back. I think we all have been so fortunate that, we all want to pay it forward and give back. And so, um, when I was running for Congress, I I lost, but I won the primary, so I'm a career 500 in federal elections. But I ended up moving down to Orange County. I got married, met my wife, got married, and moved to Orange County. And so I wasn't as involved. I've always been on the board and founder, but 2 years ago I became an empty nester, had more time, and so I'm now president. And so it's kind of fun to come back to the group and focus on obviously, any nonprofit, you know, it's about raising money so you can do what you need to do, but it's also about really making sure the money is going to a good use, and we're getting bang for the buck, and we're picking the right programs. And I feel like after 2 years, we've kind of stabilized things, and now I get to work more with the programs, and that's really the fun part. Um, but it's super exciting. The group is, the founders are all, we're all the same age as like Colin's dad. And, we've been doing this for 25 years, and you know, we haven't really found a new leadership group. And so a couple of years ago, we decided to start a junior group, and Colin got involved with us, and um, some other people, Bruins, Trojans, everybody. We have this new junior group that we don't charge any kind of membership dues, because we know that you guys are our next leaders. And so we have, fun events, beer and pizza and stuff like that, when the city will let that happen again. And we did a junior golf tournament, which was fantastic. And so we've got all this great energy with our new junior group. We're super excited about that. And, anyone who might want to get involved, you can talk to Colin, or just go on our website. If you just Google West Coast Sports Associates, you can go on our website, learn more about it. But the idea is, I mean, for you guys, it's great because, like I say, the group is still where sports meets business. We've got people from the Lakers, the Dodgers, the Rams, the Kings, people in the sports business, and we've got agents and business managers and coaches and former athletes. And so, for anyone who wants to get involved with sports, it's a great way to give back, and also network with people in all those different areas, and also learn about what it's like um, to be part of a nonprofit, because some people want to go that direction too. So anyway, that's kind of a little bit about West Coast Sports Associates. My day, and this is, I'm a volunteer. We have one executive director, Susie Lee, and she's our only paid staff. The rest of us are all volunteers, and we do, we take our own time to do this because it's really important to us. But we also have fun too. We have fun social events where we'll um, we'll gather, and we'll host cocktail and hors d'oeuvres, and we'll have a guest speaker. We've had many Bruins in the past, speak to our smaller group, which they've all been in person until recently, when now they're on Zoom. But some of the Bruins we've had speak, we've had Steve Lavin, we've had Eric Karros, we've had Baron Davis. As I mentioned, Bill Walton and John Wooden have been honorees. Um, and so these are, it's just a fun event where, we're kind of making people aware of what we do, and you get to hear things and hear stories that you wouldn't normally hear. Um, as Colin said, my day job is, I'm in the commercial real estate business. My firm, Citation Capital, helps real estate developers finance their projects. We get them debt and equity, and help them develop and refinance and things like that. And some of the people in our group are in real estate, some are not. We've got, literally people who do everything. But it's just been fun doing it, because without any expectations of anything at all, I've made great friendships and good business relationships, and get to kind of pursue our passion, which is sports. I turned one of my biggest addictions into something good. I'm a sports addict. I love sports. I follow high school sports, college, pros. I love it. And so, I'm glad we were able to kind of do something that that's been beneficial and leave a legacy. And we want this to continue. So we're hoping, you know, the young people, particularly you guys, will help us continue this legacy for a long, long time. And with that, I don't want to talk forever, so I'm glad to take questions and answer anything you guys would like to hear about.
Yeah, I can kind of kick it off. I know our executive board did a little research and formed some questions that we wanted to ask you. First, I think it's amazing, like the work that you're doing at Westcoast Sports Associates, and just the aspect of giving back, and how impactful that is. I know specifically for me being an athlete, how much like sport has changed, impacted my life, even to my journey to UCLA. So I was curious, since you were talking about how impactful sports is, especially for the youth, how did your experience in sports growing up? I know you also played rugby at UCLA. How did all of that kind of come into play to your like relationship with sports and your appreciation for it?
Well, it just seems, you tend to gravitate towards people like you. Whether it's friendships, all my best friends that I've known forever, we've all loved sports, played sports against each other, with each other. And, whether it's the life lessons, the camaraderie, the competition, um, just the passion, has bonded us. And that's why we did WSA. And so it's continued. And we just wanted to make sure that there are kids out there who, if they don't have the $100 it takes to play flag football or softball or whatever it is, that they get to play. Um, and so we're really focused on trying to reach a lot of different areas, so that we can do that. And so far we're pretty happy, but our mission is not done. We want to continue and grow it. But yeah, had I not had those great experiences and life lessons, I mean, you learn such great life lessons playing sports, whether it's, discipline and toughness and grit. And I mean, look, I'm sure you guys have all seen, the pyramid of success. You know, those are things you all learn playing sports, whether you're going to be a high school or a college or a pro athlete, you still learn those same lessons. So we just want to make sure that um, uh, we can help kids do that, because I just don't think um, there's a lot of funding that goes towards that. I think it's a very underserved area.
100%. And it's interesting because I know our sports business club last year, pre-COVID, we often go on like field trips and try to visit different sites. And like one of the ones that we visited last year was LA 84, and just seeing like how many organizations and stuff are out there right now, really trying to help promote youth sports is something I think is definitely empowering. I have another question relating to you running for Congress. I think that's just super cool. Were there specific takeaways that you got that actually also helped contribute to you creating West Coast Sports Associates from that experience too?
Yeah, I think what I didn't know what to think of politicians before I did that. I had worked on some political campaigns before that when I was in college. Um, and, running for Congress, I realized, one, anybody, I don't care who you are, if you run for office or you hold public office, it's a sacrifice. And, whether you like them or not, my hat's off to anyone who does it, because it's thankless. And especially in the day and age of social media that we're in right now, no matter who you are, someone's going to hate you. People love you, people hate you. So, anyone who does it, whether I agree with them or not, I commend them. And, as in, whether you're running for office, you're trying to do something because you want to help, you want to make a better place. And that's the same for WSA. We're just trying to make, the youth world a better place. Because when you're a kid, if you think back to, it wasn't that long ago for you guys, it was for me, but I had such great memories, and I can't imagine not being able to play sports. I can't imagine. And so, yeah, that really helped. I met a whole bunch of different people through that, people that I'm still in touch with, and some of those people have helped with WSA.
Hey, Mike. Yeah, if it'd be all right if I could ask you a question real quick. For people who may not know, could you explain to everyone the different types of nonprofits that exist, such as how WSA is more considered a pass through, if I'm correct?
Yeah. So what we are is we're like United Way, where what we do is we focus on the actual programs that will have the sports programs, and so we don't actually go out there with the kids ourselves, but uh, we we will find the best program. So that's kind of our value add, is that we're putting the money together with the program. So the nonprofits, and we've done some things with LA 84, and we're going to work. There's a couple of their nonprofits that they fund that we're going to work with. Um, and we've got, as I mentioned, probably off top of my head, Harlem Lacrosse is one, inner city lacrosse, for kids who can't afford to play. Um, Beat the Streets is wrestling. We've done stuff with Tiger Woods golf. We've done, there's a group in Long Beach called Boss, where they help middle school age kids um, learn about what life is, outside of sports. So those are just kind of a few off the top of my head. And then we fund directly the trophies and the uniforms and the referees for a bunch of the typical LA City Park and Rec centers, where they're playing soccer or football or basketball, and we'll fund those programs so they can then offer scholarships to the kids. And they know the kids who are staying in school and keeping up their grades, and who don't have the funds to pay that entry fee, and we'll fund that stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, those all sound like some really good programs that you guys are doing. Now, with regards to like finding the best ones and stuff like that, can you explain to us a bit about what that process looks like from start to finish of finding a program, being like, oh, this looks good, and then going into actually donating? Like, what's that all look like?
Well, we really get into the numbers. We want to know, to apply for a grant from us, you've got to be very specific about the program, the participants, the cost, um, and because we want to make sure that the dollars are getting spent the right way. And I'll say, since I've become involved, I've really looked hard at some of the programs, and I think we can do a little bit better. Because to me, every dollar we have is a dollar, and if that dollar can help two kids as opposed to one, I want to figure out a way to do it. So it's always about getting the most bang for the buck, but also reaching over different sports, different areas, and also equally among boys and girls as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I also had another question, kind of a bit more about your high school experience back at Loyola. Obviously, I went there as well, and proud to be a part of that football program. I remember you mentioned in an article or a Q&A with them that you that going there was an inspiration for you, and that you had some really impactful football coaches, particularly Marty Shaughnessy, and then anyone who knows Loyola knows the great Steve Grady. So I was curious how their leadership impacted you both as an athlete and then in your professional career as an investment banker and entrepreneur.
Well, I've always remembered, I mean, that goes to the life lessons you learn. And if without those experiences, um, I wouldn't be the person I am. So when I was a sophomore at Loyola in, and I was on the sophomore football team when Marty Shaughnessy was the coach. And he's not that well known outside of Loyola, but Marty went to St. Paul High School, which St. Paul had this incredible program, and they had an incredible coach, Marion Ansich, and he's got a long line of coaches, and it's kind of old school football. But St. Paul in the old Angeles League used to dominate, and and that was they were modern day before modern day, and so Marty um, left St. Paul to take the Loyola head coaching job, which pissed off a lot of St. Paul people. But he was amazing. I remember the first meeting he had with all the players, and little things he talked about with respect to discipline. And I mean, these are things I remember today, where one of them was, okay, you're all, no matter what sport you are, you have a role, and you need to focus on whatever your role is, not the person next to you, not the person you're going to be. You can't think about what happened or what's going to happen. You got to be in the present and focus 100%, or you're going to make a mistake. And these are things I use today in my career, because you can't let your head scatter. You've got to keep focused, and you've got to be able to prioritize so that you don't make mistakes, and you do your best, whether it's on the field or in your job. And so I've remembered that to this day. And, if you don't get to play sports, you're never going to get exposed to really good coaches who will teach you these things. And, and Marty left after my sophomore year because Loyola won the CIF championship, ironically beat his old school, St. Paul, in the final at the Coliseum,
There we go.
and ended up being ranked number one in the country. It was pretty cool. And so Marty left, and Loyola High alum assistant coach Steve Grady got the job. So I played for his second year, and Steve was Steve ended up being an incredible high school football coach, and he was just all about discipline and execution. We didn't pass that much. We ran all the time. You knew it was coming, but you couldn't stop us because we executed. Because we didn't have a big playbook, but we practiced hard, and we were so disciplined. And we if you had to execute a play the right way to be successful, um, that's what we did. And it's amazing when you look at his career, how great his teams were. And ever since he left, Loyola's unfortunately never been the same. We hope that'll change. Um, but that's what great coaches do, and you learn such valuable life lessons that again have taken us all through our careers in the real world. And again, you know, and I've had coaches too when I was little in middle school and younger who will have that effect. And that's why you know we are so focused on the life lessons you learn from these experiences.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it. I love hearing all those Loyola stories from the glory days and stuff. As someone who also played there, and as a punter, you know, considering how we played during some of my years, I had to punt a lot. So hopefully that changes and we can get back to some of our.
I was just thankful your parents didn't send you to Harvard Westlake and they let you go to Loyola. So that was good.
Yeah. No, God bless them. All worked out how it's meant to. So I wanted to pass it on to Jada right now. She has a question for you.
Sure.
Thanks, Colin. Hi, Mike. Thank you so much again for speaking with us today. You really touched on, especially with this recent question, a lot about being a lot about teamwork and a lot about doing everything as a team and knowing your role. And I was curious, especially with everything that's been going on this year with the pandemic, how has your leadership and how has the run of West Coast Sports Associates changed in terms of being able to have funding with different organizations and serving underprivileged kids? And have you been able to do any virtual events still with everything going on because of COVID?
Yeah, we have. It's been a challenging year because, first of all, most of our programs are not happening because there's no in-person sports, and most of our events we couldn't do our really successful. We couldn't have our second junior golf tournament. We couldn't have our social events in person. We couldn't have our junior, pizza beer nights in person, and so we shifted to virtual events, and it's just not the same. But we just had to pivot, and we've had some really good virtual events, and we shifted to a virtual gala. None of us had any clue how it would come together, but it did. We learned a lot, and I think going forward, I think even when we get back to doing in-person events, I think things like we're doing here, these Zoom events, are here to stay because it. It's funny, in a place like LA, a lot of people couldn't come to our events because A, traffic, B, they just didn't want to drive the commute. We're going to try to now have social events and our gala that also will have the virtual ability, so people who can't be there in person can still watch and participate. And for example, our last gala, the Charles Barkley interview, is going to be online next week, so that anyone who wants can look at it and learn more about WSA and hear the event. We've had 25 years of absolutely incredible interviews, and your guys' parents all know who Roy Firestone is, but you guys probably don't, because Roy used to have a show on ESPN called Up Close, where he's interviewed everybody. And if you guys have seen the movie Jerry Maguire, the main character says, Roy, you're not going to make me cry, because Roy has that way of just getting right into your heart and getting and just doing a great interview, where a lot of times he'd make the interviewee cry. And so there's nobody better than Roy. And so we've got 25 incredible honorees with incredible, snippets and things that we also want to start putting on our website and YouTube. So I think virtual is here to stay in some way, shape, or form. So we're going to learn from it, and we'll have the best of both worlds going forward.
Absolutely. So if I could chime in, I got one or two more, if that's all right. I wanted to know, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face from a WSA perspective?
Well, fundraising is one of the bigger ones, and that goes to your board members and your membership, and so it's having the right members, having being able to get the message out. You need people who will do the work. You need people who will write checks. You need people who are creative, and so you want, and then our group, which we, from day one, we thought, well, because of the idea of helping kids play sports, we want to strike a chord with people who have that same passion. So I think in any nonprofit, you have to be able to have some commonality. Um, it's like when your dad, Colin, and I formed the UCLA Real Estate Alumni Group. The commonality was we were all Bruins, so it worked. So you can't just have a random group of people without some bond. Our bond is sports. And so I think we've got a pretty good system, but our biggest challenge is going to be leadership going forward. We want to make sure that we keep this legacy going. And so that's why I'm hoping people like you guys will will want to get involved and be our future leaders.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think touching on those points of commonality, certainly here at BISBA, we all have that, and it's a nice community to form. And I think it definitely makes us have like a tighter bond for sure, which is really good. And I think definitely after a night like tonight, there will be some more people interested. I already know someone's messaged me privately they're interested, which is good to hear. And I guess another question I had for you too is like on a more personal level, some challenges you've faced in the past, like maybe any failures or really tough experiences that upon looking back on them, they were actually crucial to your success.
Well, I think, one of the great life lessons you learn from sports is just dealing with adversity. You know, everyone's going to lose. You can't win all the time. And so losing helps you deal with that adversity of, okay, well, I lost. What can I do better next time? Never giving up. Can't ever give up. I mean, the recession we went through starting in 2008 for my business in real estate was brutal. Um, and I don't know that if it weren't for my background of just, I mean, the way I played sports is I just played hard. I gave 150%. I wasn't the most talented athlete at all. I was smart, so I used my IQ, but I had to try harder than everybody else. So I've had the attitude of never quit. And if you're an athlete, that's kind of instilled in you. And so if I didn't have that attitude, I don't know how I would have survived the Great Recession. Absolutely, you just have these. That's what's one of the great life lessons we have.
Yeah,
I
that's
have
really cool.
sorry, Colin. I have another question actually, just hearing you talk more about the nonprofit space is like really interesting. Like Colin said, everyone in this club is interested in working in sports in some capacity, and whether nonprofit has like kind of come into their mind at all or not. What advice would you give for some of the students on this call that want to maybe go in and try out the nonprofit sector? What advice would you give us?
Well, I think you have to have, to me, to do a nonprofit, I think you have to have a passion for something specific. I don't think you can say, "Oh, I want to get involved in nonprofits," and look at 20 different random nonprofits and say, oh, I'll go intern or work for whoever takes me, because then you're just going to wherever they'll take you. You want to research and go somewhere where you have a passion, because I don't think you can be successful raising money or implementing if you don't have a passion for that non whatever that is that the nonprofit does. In my case, sports. And I formed a number of groups, whether it's my high school alumni group, um, or whether it's WSA, or the real estate alumni group. You've got to have a bond. You've got to have a passion. So the first thing to identify is what's your passion, because if you stick with your passion, whether it's working for a nonprofit or whatever you do job wise, you're going to be fine because you have a passion for it. You'll be more interested in it. You'll be more motivated. So whether it's a nonprofit or in the business world, or it's coaching or whatever it is, follow your passion, identify it, follow it. If you don't know, try some things till you figure out what you like and what you don't like.
Absolutely. Sorry to hop in, Christina, but would you say that WSA and doing work for them and stuff like that, is particularly like when you try and like elicit donations and you're working on fundraising and things like that, do you think it's something that's similar to like the sales process and that it can be applicable? So I'm saying this mostly, say, for our younger guys who would maybe seek doing intern type work for you guys or joining as a junior member to help out. Do you think that's some stuff that can help develop skills that are then transferable to, say, careers working at a sports organization like the Dodgers or something like that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And so, for instance, Colin, the project you worked on for us was a strategic plan, which is, you know, taking a whole bunch of information, and synthesizing it. I gave you some direction, but synthesizing a whole bunch of information and summarizing it. That's one of the most valuable skills you can learn no matter what you're going to do. Because in my business, I take complicated real estate transactions and I have to simplify them in writing because maybe 5 different people are going to need to look at it and make a decision on it. So the more dummy proof I can make it to where all someone has to do is forward an email and everything is self-explanatory, the better. So the skills that Colin learned in that situation were how to put a really good summary, concise, and but also look at our group and look at past strategic plans and really try to identify what are the key things that we need to do to be successful. So it was a combination of a bunch of things. Now that's one area. We have another area where we have some people helping us with social media, and we have some great interns. We never had social media before, um, but I can tell you that is a real world skill because that's my daughter's business. My daughter's 26 years old, a few years out of college, and her sole business is helping small businesses who aren't big enough to have an in-house social media person full time to help increase their business. Anyone who's over 40 years old, we don't know how to do that. So we have some great interns who are helping us with our social media. And that's all social media is sales. It's sales. It's digital sales. It's convincing people to do something. And then there's the person to person communication where, you can pitch WSA from a fundraising perspective and learn sales skills. So no matter what interest you may have, we'll find something for you to do that can actually be very practical down the line.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I certainly appreciated the opportunity and definitely felt like I learned a lot and actually developed some real skills, which not all internships offer. Sometimes you're ending up being the person just doing the busy work or something like that. Whereas you guys really gave us the opportunity to actually do some tangible hands-on work. That was really helpful. Now, I just got like one more question, and then I'm curious to see if anyone in the audience has any, or if you guys want to write some in the chat for our general members, or speak up and say something, you're by all means welcome to. My question would be, within WSA, you guys have, for all of you who don't know, there's kind of like this infamous breakfast from, what was it, 1995, right?
Yeah.
You and the guys, you're sitting there. This is the breakfast, guys, that's talked about in the LA Times. So when Mike's answering, I'll send the link to that. I was curious, if you were there right now, traveling back, you see 4 guys sitting at breakfast talking about starting a nonprofit like you guys did, what advice would you give them that like maybe you wish you knew at the time that now you can say with 2020 hindsight would have been very helpful?
Well, at that point, we didn't know what we didn't know. But we started with, we had no idea where it was going. Um, and if we didn't have Roy Firestone involved, Roy got us our first honoree, which was Jim Brown, who Jim Brown's maybe the greatest NFL player of all time. And we could have never gotten him without Roy. But what we thought was, okay, and it goes back to our passion. We all had the passion, so we didn't care. But because we had a passion, um, that gave us something to focus on. But what we realized is we could have fun at the same time. And it's, and that's our bond. So, wow, how great it is to have fun and do something good. But also, we got access, we had great contacts to sports personalities, to have these, smaller social events and have a cocktail with, an Eric Karras, a Steve Lavin, a Mitch Kupchak, Luke Walton, Les Snead, the GM of the Rams. All these people have done social events for us. Doc Rivers, and again, we didn't know what we were doing. Had we actually thought that we wanted to do something that would be what WSA is now, I think we would have been scared to death. But Chip Eggers took on the first presidency. I said, Chip, I'll help you. I'll run the dinner. And so Chip did it for 5 years. Then Mike Rosenberg took his turn for 5. Alan Lynch did it for 10 years. And then we kind of had an issue, and we had Mike Solem for 2 years, another Loyola guy, and Sam Lagana for 2 years. Sam is a vice chancellor at Pepperdine in the athletic department, but he's also the PA announcer and the voice of the Los Angeles Rams. He's the guy, he's the big booming voice you hear, you know, Jared Goff for 20, you know. But we realized that there was a camaraderie and it was fun, and that also wasn't going to be just a fraternity. So we need more women, by the way. And for girls, it's great because it's a ton of guys. It's target rich, but it was going to be a fraternity. And then I was told by someone I can't name who's on our board now, you can't do that. That was 25 years ago. So I'm glad we did. We didn't make it a fraternity. And so it evolved. But I think had we set out to do what we ended up doing, I don't think we could have done it, because we would have made a million mistakes. We just followed our passion and kind of let things happen organically, you know?
Yeah, I really like that idea of, letting your passions be what direct you, and things will just naturally fall into place how they're meant to. I guess we got one more question here, and then we can call it a night. My buddy Leighton McNamara, want to shout out him real quick. He actually goes to Duke, and he's coming in on this call, and he's one of my high school teammates at Loyola, so he's another Cub. He was curious about what possible internship opportunities there would be, and maybe how he could reach out to you, or any of the people on the call could reach out to you to seek those out.
Yeah, glad to help. I mean, Colin, you can share my contact information. What I would say is go on our website, learn a little bit about the programs and things. And no matter what, if you tell me, what I like to get is, send me some background on you, a resume, what your major is, what your areas of interest are. I'll find something for you. So we're glad to help. There's absolutely something everybody can do. Guarantee it.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. So hopefully that answered your question, Leighton. And then, yeah, I'll hand it back to Christina right now. We can wrap it up. Once again, Mike, just from me, I want to say a huge thank you. I know we all appreciated this. So yeah, we'll wrap it up.
Awesome. Okay, let me go back to my presentation, shared screen. So yeah, thank you, Mike, for answering all these questions. If anyone has any questions that come up later tonight or anything like that for him, always feel free to email us or anything like that, and we can try to get those as well. And so keeping in mind a next play for BSBA, what's happening next week, we are having a social. So as you can see, we're going to have a little bit of an icebreaker, possibly a debate. If you went to our last one, it got pretty heated and it was fun. Some trivia, and there may or may not be a surprise for the winner. And that surprise is also comes down to all the attendance that we got from our guests this entire quarter. So all of that will be announced. So we should have some fun ones. And next week is going to be our last meeting for the quarter. So really hope you guys can all come out to that. Going on, just a reminder of our attendance policy. This is how we collect our point system. So you guys all get a point for being here today. Please fill out that attendance form that Colin put out in the chat so that we can give you guys credit as well for showing up. And thanks again for attending this week. I hope you guys all learned a lot from everything Mike said. Once again, if you guys have any follow-up questions or anything like that, please let us know. If you have any feedback on this meeting, please let us know as well. We also have in the chat our social medias as well. We have a group me, Instagram, Facebook, all of that. So follow us, follow Westcoast Sports Associates as well. And thank you again, Mike, for coming in today and speaking with all of us. It was a really great meeting.
Well, thanks for having me. And like I say, Colin, feel free to share my info. Anyone who wants to reach out with me, I prefer, shoot me an email with your background, what you're looking to do, and I'll connect you. So anyway, hope everyone has a good luck on finals, and go Bruins.
Go Bruins.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.